Hey guys, and welcome back to the Unreal Engine 4 tutorial. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to set up a very basic first-person crowbar system. So in this, I'll get in and show you what we're going to make. We're going to have the crowbar idle bobbing up and down like so, and if we press left mouse we're going to be able to use it as well. So we have this basic system like this, and we can use it like so. And then in the next video what I'm going to be doing is showing you how to merge this video with my previous video on removing wooden boards from a door to unlock it. So I'm going to be doing this so we can then remove all these boards, then be able to open the door like so. So I'm going to be setting up this very basic crowbar system, which we can also equip and unequip like so as well, and use it like that. I'm going to be setting this basic one up today, and then maybe tomorrow probably merging it with this other video I made previously. And so yeah, we'll get right into it. Again, this is very basic, however you can use this to adapt onto it and build upon it to make it a lot better for you. It's very easy to do that. This is just the basic core fundamentals of it to show you how it all works, how it's set up, and you can build upon that as well. So without further ado, let me delete this code and we'll get right into the video. So what we want to do first is we want to actually import our crowbar static mesh. Now this can be a crowbar, a hammer, absolutely whatever you like, but I'm using a crowbar. And I'm going to be using one which I got off of blenderswap.com, so I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. And once you download it, you'll have to open it up in Blender like this. And once we're in here, I'm just going to delete everything which isn't the crowbar. So you can just select it and then press delete, like so. So now we just have this crowbar left, and you can go to File, Export, Export FBX, and leaving the settings as they are default, and then just drag and drop that into the engine to import it like so. So we get this here. Now again, for you, the base material might just be white, so you can just open it up and change this color here to be red or whatever color you'd like. So with that part out of the way, let's get on to the actual coding part. So a lot of this is just doing different values, so it's just values in lots of variables, moving between them all, and stuff like that, which is why it took a little bit of time to set up, purely because I had to find out all the different values. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the code in our character blueprint. So for me that's the third person character, so I'm going to go to Content, Third Person BP, Blueprints, Third Person Character, and we're going to go straight over to the viewport like so. In here we want to go to Add Component, and we want to add a static mesh. I'm going to name this one Crowbar, as that's what it is. This is going to be my crowbar static mesh. And over on the right, under static mesh, I'm going to change that to be my crowbar, which we have there, and you can see we've got this in. So compile and save that. Now this is quite big by default, so I'm just going to set the scale to be 0.5 on the X, Y, and Z, just to get it a bit of a better size, like so. And now I'm going to be using the location and rotation values, which I found earlier, but I will show you how to find the values as well. But for me, what I'm going to be using is minus 35 on the X, 65 on the Y, and 115 on the Z. Now that's all the way up there because we also need to parent this to the mesh. However, what I might do is parent it to the camera this time instead, which means I'll need to find the values again, but parenting it to the camera instead of the mesh will make it look better, and then also give you a better overview of how I find the values. So if we drag our static mesh onto our first person camera like so, it's now parented to it, so wherever the camera goes, that crowbar will go as well, which is obviously good for when we're looking around. So now let's set those values again, because I believe I won't be able to use those same values again. So if I put this as minus 33, 65, and 115, yep, I can't use those. So what I'm going to do is find them. So I'm just going to double click this to minimize it, so we can still see in there and our screen. And we're going to select our character blueprint here. As you can see, we have this preview down here. What I'm going to do is just pin the preview there, so press that. And this just means we can see what the player is going to see. So if I just make this a little bit bigger again, what we can do is now move this crowbar in here, and it will be moving it in the real world, and we'll be able to see the preview in this camera view there. So this is how I find the values. I just simply move it around using that preview until I get something which I like. So I think I'm just going to rotate it a bit more. So I think something like that's going to be good for me. Again, you can customize this to get it perfect for you and however you like. But for me, that's going to be good. So we'll go back into the character blueprint here, and that's where the crowbar is going to be. Again, this is why it looks better without a mesh, because we don't need any animations. But obviously if you have your own animations, then this will be a lot easier for you to do, because you just connect it to the mesh in your hand, so when the animation plays, the crowbar moves as well. We want to make sure the mobility is movable as well, which it should be by default. And then what we're going to do is compile that and go over to the event graph. What we're going to do now is just a very simple equip and unequip system. So I'm going to be doing this off the one keyboard event. So if I right click and get the one keyboard event there, what I'm going to do is get a reference to our crowbar, so drag the crowbar in there. We want to get hidden in game. like so. That going into a branch, so hold on B, left click to get a branch. The condition as hidden in game, execution impressed. And hidden in game is essentially how we're going to equip and unequip it. So this boolean is also acting as our equipped boolean that we would have, but obviously we don't need it because we have this here. So out of true, we're going to get a reference to our crowbar again. Now of that, we're going to set hidden in game. Out of true, what we want to do is we don't want to hide it, because if it is already hidden, it will come out true, so we want to show it. So new hidden will be false. And we'll come out of crowbar again and set collision enabled, so that we are showing it and also able to use its collision, so that will be collision enabled. Now if we select the hidden in game and set collision enabled, duplicating them down here, coming out of false, the crowbar as the targets again, we can now tick new hidden and set the collision to be no collision. And so what this means is that if it is already hidden, we'll equip it, and if it isn't already hidden, we're going to unequip it. So we can just select that, hit C to comment it, and name this equip/unequip. And like I say, it's a very basic system for equipping and unequipping a weapon, for example, or for us, a crowbar. So now you also saw at the start we had a kind of bobbing animation, so a crowbar idle. Let's set that up now. This just makes it look a little bit more realistic, makes it look a little bit better. So we're going to do that. So just underneath this, we can right click and add a custom event. And I'm going to name this one crowbar bob or idle, anything like that. And out of this, we're going to get a flip-flop. And that just toggles between values of A and B because we want to go play and reverse. And then out of A, we're going to add a timeline. And I'm going to name this crowbar bob T for timeline. A will be play, B will be reverse. Not play from start or reverse from end, just play and reverse. And we'll double click the timeline to open it up straight away. In here, I'm going to set the length to be 2 seconds, so it will take 2 seconds to go all the way up and back down again. And we're going to add a float track. I'm going to name this one bobbing track, like so. And in here, I'm going to right click and add key to curve float with a time of 0, value of 0. And then I'm going to go halfway, so I'm going to add another key with a time of 1 and a value of 1 as well. And then right click again with a time of 2, so all the way at the end, and a value of 0. And then what I'm going to do is right click on one of the keyframes, change it to auto, and do this for all of them. And so that auto means it will just be a nice gentle slope up and down to really smooth it out. And the reason we're going all the way up and back down is because this will be the lowest point, this will be the highest point, and this will be the lowest point again. So what it's going to do is go up and back down, just to have that nice idle animation of bobbing up and back down again. And then we can close the timeline. And the reason we've got reverse is because essentially what that means is that if we then swing halfway through, it is going to start again from where we want it to be, which is why we want play, not play from start. And the reverse is because otherwise play from start is just going to snap it. So having both play and reverse just eliminates the snapping and makes it look a lot nicer. Out of bobbing track, we're going to get a lerp vector, as we want to go between 2 vector locations. And then out of this, we're also going to get a reference to our crowbar again, so drag and drop that, and then set relative location, connecting that into the update of the timeline. So every single time the timeline updates, so it goes through the track we just made, it's going to set the location. The new location being the return value of the lerp. So now we just need to set up the 2 values for our lerp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a plus variable here, naming this one bob down, changing it to be a vector, create another variable, keeping this as a vector, naming it bob up. As you can tell, these are going to be the values for bobbing down and up. And so I'm going to compile so I can change the default values. Back in the viewport now, we're going to do the same trick we did last time, where we just minimize this so we can still see the character here. And what we'll do is select the third person camera and just untick auto activate, so first person there. Now again, we can move our crowbar to be in the positions that we want it to be in, for up and down. So I think where it is at the moment is going to be a good value for up. So what I'm going to do is maximize this, and with the crowbar selected, I'm going to right click on the location and hit copy, go into bob up, right click that and hit paste. And so now this location it's currently in is the location that will go all the way up to when it's idle bobbing. And if we do this again, so we're getting the bob down, so we select the crowbar, move it down where we want, I think that value is going to be good. So you see it kind of moved over to the left as well. That's just something annoying which happens when you have animations on. And if we remove the animation, then it's not going to look perfect as well. However, all we need is the Z value. So I think that height is going to be good, maybe a little bit more up. So I think that one will be good there. So we go back in here. Let's get the location on the Z. I'll say -55. So now if we just right click the location and hit paste, that's going to put it back in that position. And if we select bob down, right click and paste, that's got the X and Y, and the Z we're just going to change to be -55, or whatever values you had. And so that means it's going to go down and up like so. And what I'll do as well is actually put the crowbar starting in the down position. So I'll copy the bob down, select the crowbar, paste in the location like so. Now we can see that's what it's going to look like all the way down. So you might want that a bit further up maybe. So I'll change it to be -50. I think that's going to be good for me. Again, this is how you get the different values for what you want. So we go back into the event graph here. We can then put those values in. So A will be bob down, B will be bob up, as we're going from down to up like so. And then we want to be able to loop this as well, because so far this will only do it once. So at finished, we're going to hold down B, left click to get a branch, connecting that to the finished. The condition, we want to create another new variable, so we're going to hit the plus variable here, naming this is using question mark, and this is going to be a boolean, so a true or false value. I'm going to set that into the condition, and the reason being for this is because we don't want to be able to loop it if we're currently using the crowbar, i.e. we're attacking with it, we're hitting something, or something along those lines. So once you've done that, out of true, we don't want to do anything, because if we are using it, we don't want to bob it. And out of false, what we're going to do is call function crowbar bob. And what it's going to do is then go back in here, and then loop the timeline. So it's going to loop this idle bobbing for as long as we want. So if we select all that, and hit C to comment it, we can name this crowbar idle bob, like so. Now we can also test this out to see if it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down P and left click to get the event begin play. Now if you've already used event begin play, you can just hold down S left click to get a sequence, put in your code that you currently have in then 0, and this new code we're going to make in then 1. And out of event begin play, what we're going to do is call the function of crowbar bob as well. So when we start the game, it's going to start bobbing the crowbar, and it will loop it for as long as we want as well, which again is what we want it to do, working perfectly. So I want to put that up there, and if we compile, we can actually hit play to test this as well, and you can see the crowbar is going up and down like that. Now if you don't like how that looks, just mess about the values. You can see, because since we put it on the camera, we look both up and down, it sticks with us as well. So again, you can either make the timeline longer so it takes longer to go up and down, you can decrease or increase the value so it goes further up, further down, anything along those lines, but as you can see, it's going to smoothly go up and smoothly go back down again, perfectly like so, so it just looks a little bit more realistic, like the player is actually bobbing with it. So we can close that and go on to the next part of the code. And the next part of the code is to use the crowbar. So what I'm going to do is underneath the idle bob, I'm going to right click, adding another custom event, naming this use crowbar. And out of this, I'm going to hold down B, left click to get a branch. The condition of this is going to be the is using boolean, which we just made. And that's just to simply prevent the player from spamming the button, so if they constantly press left mouse button, or whatever you have, it's not going to break the animation or anything, it's just going to do it once until they can do it again. Out of true, again, we don't want to do anything. Out of false, we want to get a line trace by channel. And we're doing a line trace so that it goes in whichever direction the player is looking in. So it doesn't just go forward in a straight line, it always goes where the player is looking. So what we're going to do is the start is going to be getting our camera, so we'll get the camera there. Out of this, we're going to get world location. So it simply just starts this line trace wherever the camera is. So like I say, that will go to start. And out of the camera again, we're going to get forward vector, as we want to go in a straight line forward from the camera. Out of the forward vector, we're going to get a vector multiplied by a float, and this float value is how long you want the line to be, so how far away the crowbar will go from the player. Now at the start, I set this as a value of 150, but I might up it to 200, but again, you can have this as high or as low as you want. This is just essentially how far the crowbar is going to go away from the player when they're using it. And then out of the get world location again, we're going to get a vector plus a vector, adding that to the multiplication, that going to the end result. And the reason we're doing that is just to keep the line trace going in a nice straight line for us. So that will then work perfectly, so wherever this ends up, we're going to move the crowbar to. So out of the out hit, we're going to break hit result, opening that up like so. And this is so we can actually get where the line trace ends. And so to do that, we're obviously going to come out trace end, but we won't do that just yet. What we're going to do first is we want to stop this idle bob when we're using the crowbar. So like I say, we don't want to restart it, we also want to stop it. So that's very simple. What we can do is on the left here, we're going to open up our components tab, and we're going to get crowbar bob t, which is the name of my timeline. Out of that, I'm going to get a stop. which is very simple. All it's going to do is stop the timeline. So we can connect that like so. And after this, we want to set the isUsing boolean to be true. So tick it there, because obviously we are now using the crowbar. And now we want to create some more variables again. So we're going to hit the plus variable here. I'm going to name this one crowbar idle, setting this to be a vector. And now we're doing this because we want to save the current location the crowbar is in, so that we can go from that to where we want it to go to use it. So we're going to set that after the set is using there. And what we're going to do to set this is get our crowbar and just get the world location. Now we want to do world location, not relative location, because this line trace here is world, not relative. So that's why we're doing that as well. So we'll get the world location of where the crowbar is currently in the world. And if the rotation, that's going to be slightly different. So we're going to create another plus variable. I'm going to name this idle rot for idle rotation. I'm going to change that to be a rotator. I'm going to set that after the idle crowbar idle there. And now for this, we're going to come out the crowbar again. So this component here. And out of this, we're now going to get the relative rotation, not the world, the relative for the rotation, because the rotation is a little bit different. It's just easier for us to get the relative rotation and use that and apply it and set it instead, because the rotation is obviously going to be different wherever we're looking, but we always want it to rotate the same way. We just want it to move and the location wise different ways. So relative will work great for the rotation. So now let's actually set up the animation for moving it. So out of the set idle rot, I'm going to add a timeline. I'm going to name this one use crowbar T for timeline. This one going into play from start, not play. I'm going to double click that to open it up. I'm going to set the length of this one to be 0.6, as I want it to take 0.6 seconds to go all the way in and all the way back out again for when we're using it. Again, set that to be however long you want. We're going to add a float track. I'm going to name this one use track, and we're going to do the same thing we did before. So we're going to right click, add key to curve float, time 0, value 0. Right click, add key with a time of halfway through. So for me that would be 0.3, and a value of 1. Right click, add key, time all the way at the end, which is 0.6, and a value of 0. And now I'm not going to do the auto thing again to make it nice and smooth, because I think using it will be a bit more rigid, a bit more stern. I can't think of the exact word, but it'll be a bit more harder. So the bobbing will be nice and smooth and nice and gentle. This one will just be in and out. And we can close that timeline again, like so. And now we have this use track again, so we're going to come out of that and get a lerp vector, get the crowbar component again, and out of this we're going to set world location. So again, world location, not relative, with the new location being the return value of that lerp there. And then the two values which we want in the lerp vector, A is going to be our crowbar idle, which we set here, which again we're setting to be the current location of when we started this, and the B is simply where we want the crowbar to go, which again is very simply this trace end from our break hit result from the line trace there. That can go into B, and now what this is going to do is go from the current position to wherever this line trace ends up, which again is perfectly what we want, like so. And now we also want to do the rotation at the same time as the location. So we're going to come out the crowbar again and set the relative rotation, again making sure this time it's relative, not world. We're going to come out of the use track there again, this time getting a lerp rotator, with the return value going to new rotation there. We're going to make sure that we tick shortest path, otherwise it will go a weird way around, it will just go straight there, but we want it to be the shortest path, as that way it's the most efficient and it looks the best, and it's where we want it to go. A is going to be idle rot, like so, which again is the rotation we set at the start there, and B is going to be a new variable we're going to make. So I'm going to hit plus variable, naming this used rot, so it's a rotation for when we are using the crowbar, and that will go into B like so. And I've actually remembered the values which I used last time, so I'm going to compile to change it, and the values which I'm going to change it to are going to be minus 40 on the X, 50 on the Y, and 40 on the Z. I believe those were the values. However, again, I'll show you how I got them. All I did was the same trick with the viewport there, and I just rotated this to get it perfectly how I wanted, like so. So I believe those were the values, but you just rotate it until it looks good for you. And again, the values which I found to be good were minus 40, 50, and 40. And now that should work perfectly. One final thing we want to do is, again, out of the finished, what we want to do is we want to set is using, so out of finished there, set is using to false, as we're no longer using it, and then we want to call the function of crowbar bob again, so it's going to restart bobbing the crowbar like so. So I'm just going to move that over there, and I might double click these execution lines to get reroute nodes, just to help keep it looking nice and organized and really neat like so. Just looks a lot better and it's easier to read. I might do that for more of these like this. So I think that's good. So the next step is to just simply call this code we just made. So I'm also going to select this and again hit C to comment it so we know what it is very easily. I'm just going to name this one simply use crowbar. Making sure I put a space in there like so. I'm going to move it down like that. And then all I'm going to use it is get the left mouse button event. So I'm going to right click, get left mouse button. And you can set up an action mapping as well if you want by going to edit, project settings, scrolling down to input once it's loaded. So input should be down here. There we go. And we're going to hit the plus action mapping there. I'm going to name this one use crowbar. And don't worry if you haven't got any of the other ones, that is from previous tutorials, but we're going to, like I say, press plus action mapping, name it whatever you want. I'm going to change the key to be the left mouse button. And you can set this to be whatever you want. And the reason we're using an action mapping is the benefits of it are we can set up multiple keys for different consoles, and then also key bindings. So we can close that, delete this that we just got, and right click and search what we named it. And I named it use crowbar. So it's the action event there, not the function. And out of pressed, that's now whenever we press whatever button we set it to, it's going to call this event here. So out of press, we're going to hold on B, left click to get a branch, connecting that in there. And the condition is essentially going to be if we have it equipped. So again, to do that, what I did was I'm going to get the crowbar, and I've simply got get hidden in game, and out of this I'm going to get a not boolean, because if it is not hidden in game, then we have it equipped. That will go in the condition there, and true. So if we press left mouse button and we have it equipped, we're going to simply call function use crowbar like so. So we can compile and save that. And again, actually I might comment this, just simply naming it use crowbar like so. Is that why I named that as well? It is, but I think that'll be fine because you know the difference between the two. So if we compile and save this once again, we can actually hit play to test this out. So as you can see, we're standing still, we have the idle bobbing animation here. If we press the left mouse button, it's going to use the crowbar like so. Wherever we look, the crowbar is going to go, rotating the same way each time as well. So this works perfectly. Again, if you don't like how far it goes, you can simply just change this value here. So I put it down to 100 instead of 200. What's going to happen is it's not going to go as far out. And again, you can also change the rotation to be different for you as well. You just simply change this used rot that we have here. So it might have been 40, 50, minus 40. Let me test that one out, see what that looks like. I think that looks a little better. But again, what we can do is we can actually just find a better value which works nicely for us. So I want it to just rotate like that. So I think the values I'm going to have are about 20, minus 40, minus 45. So very different to what I had last time. However, again, you just get them perfect for you. So I'm just going to make sure that I put that back. And then in the use rot, I'm going to right click, paste that since I copied it, and change it to 20, minus 40, minus 45. So we compile, and now let's test that one out as well. So again, it's very easy to change. That looks a little bit better. Again, incredibly easy for you to just change and adapt onto and build upon like so. So again, this should still work with what we set up last time, or which we'll set up in the next episode, sorry, like so. So this is what we've made today, very simple, but I think that will be it for this video, as we've done everything we want to do. We've created this crowbar system in which we can have a very basic crowbar bobbing up and down on the screen. We can move around with it. If we press left click, we're just going to simply use it with this very basic animation. Again, works a lot better in first person with no mesh, and really doesn't really work in third person at all, to be honest. However, again, this is what we've set up, and it's quite efficient. It works quite well for what it is. Again, very easy to build upon and adapt upon and make it look better for you. But this is what we've set up. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, make sure to like and subscribe down below. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.